Why clinical trials are important, not just for your care, but for the future. Hello, this evidence-based content is prepared by Saboor Khan, fellowship-trained consultant surgeon, and if you or someone you care about has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, you might be feeling overwhelmed by treatment options and wondering if there's anything more you can do. Clinical trials aren't just research experiments. They're often your gateway to the most advanced therapies available, sometimes years before they become standard treatment. Clinical trials are carefully designed research studies that test new treatments, drug combinations, or approaches to cancer care. They're not random experiments. They're conducted under strict ethical oversight with detailed protocols to protect patient safety. Because pancreatic cancer treatment is evolving rapidly, researchers are constantly developing targeted therapies that work specifically on the genetic mutations driving your particular cancer. Phase 1 trials test a new treatment in humans for the very first time. These trials involve small groups, typically 20 to 80 people, and focus primarily on safety, what dose is safe, how the body processes the drug, and what side effects occur. If you're in a Phase 1 trial, you're genuinely pioneering. The benefit? You get access to potentially groundbreaking therapy. Phase 2 trials expand testing to larger groups, usually 100 to 300 people, and focus on whether the treatment actually works against your specific cancer type. Researchers measure response rates, progression-free survival, and continue monitoring safety. Many Phase 2 trials in pancreatic cancer have led directly to approved treatments. Trials testing PARP inhibitors like olaparib for patients with BRCA mutations showed response rates around 22%. Phase 3 trials are the gold standard. These compare new treatments directly against current standard care in large groups of hundreds or even thousands of patients. The PRODIGE 4 ACCORD11 trial that established FOLFIRINOX as a standard treatment was a Phase 3 trial involving 342 patients. When a Phase 3 trial succeeds, it typically leads to regulatory approval and becomes available to everyone. Modern pancreatic cancer treatment isn't one-size-fits-all anymore. It's precision medicine based on your tumor's specific genetic alterations. The research reveals that approximately 25% of pancreatic cancers have actionable genetic mutations that can be targeted with specific therapies. Getting comprehensive genomic testing isn't optional if you want to access the most appropriate clinical trials. About 4 to 7% of pancreatic cancer patients have germline pathogenic variants in these homologous repair deficiency genes. If you have one of these mutations, you qualify for trials testing PARP inhibitors, drugs like olaparib or rucaparib. The POLO trial demonstrated that patients with BRCA mutated pancreatic cancer who received maintenance olaparib had significantly improved progression-free survival, median 7.4 months versus 3.8 months. KRAS G12C mutations occur in only 1 to 2% of pancreatic cancers, but if you have it, you might qualify for trials testing KRAS G12C inhibitors like adagrasib or sotorasib. These drugs target the specific KRAS mutation, directly, something that was considered impossible just a few years ago. Microsatellite instability high or mismatch repair deficient tumors are rare in pancreatic cancer, less than 2%, but profoundly important. If your tumor has this characteristic, you could qualify for immunotherapy trials. The Keynote 158 trial showed that among 22 pancreatic cancer patients with this profile, 18% achieved objective responses, with some lasting over 24 months. NTRK gene fusions are exceedingly rare in pancreatic cancer, but respond dramatically to TRK inhibitors like larotrectinib, entrectinib, and repotrectinib. Both germline testing through blood samples and somatic tumor profiling through next-generation sequencing should be done as quickly as possible after diagnosis. ClinicalTrials.gov is your primary resource in the US. In the UK, the ISRCTN registry maintains trial data. The ClinicalTrials.gov in the US is a database of federally and privately supported clinical trials conducted worldwide. Start with basic search using pancreatic cancer and your location. Use filters to narrow by study status, selecting recruiting intervention type, focusing on drug or biological treatments and your specific situation. Refine your search by genetic markers. Pay attention to eligibility criteria. Trials specify exactly who can participate based on disease stage. Prior treatments receive performance status measured on scales like the Eastern Cooperative Oncology Group score and specific biomarkers or genetic mutations. Beyond ClinicalTrials.gov, consider these resources. Your cancer center's clinical trials office. Academic medical centers conducting trials often have dedicated staff to help match patients. The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network's clinical trial finder at pancan.org, and pharmaceutical company websites if there's a specific drug you're interested in. About the treatment approach. What is the treatment being tested and how does it differ from standard therapy? What evidence from earlier studies supports trying this in humans? If it's a randomized trial, what's the chance I'll receive the experimental treatment versus standard care? Some trials use placebos, but in cancer treatment this typically means current standard therapy. About your time commitment and logistics. How often do I need to come for treatments and monitoring? What tests and procedures are required and how often? Will the trial cover costs of the experimental treatment, travel expenses, or other costs? How long does the trial last, and what happens after the trial ends if the treatment is working? About risks and benefits. What are the known and potential side effects? Based on early data, what percentage of patients have responded to this treatment? About your care team. Who will be my primary doctor during the trial? Will I still be able to see my regular oncologist? Who do I contact if I have problems between appointments? Not everyone qualifies for every trial. Common eligibility requirements include disease stage and prior treatment. Some trials only accept treatment-naive patients who haven't received any chemotherapy yet, while others specifically require patients who've progressed on standard therapy. Your disease stage matters. Metastatic trials differ from trials for locally advanced or resectable disease. Performance status is measured using the Eastern Cooperative Oncology Group. Scale 0 means fully active, 1 means restricted in physically strenuous activity, but ambulatory 2 means ambulatory and capable of all self-care but unable to work. Many trials require ECOG status 0 to 1, though some accept patients with ECOG 2. Organ function requirements specify minimum kidney function, liver function, including bilirubin and enzyme levels, and bone marrow function measured by blood cell counts. For pancreatic cancer, patients with biliary obstruction, bilirubin requirements can be barriers unless you've had successful stent placement. Trials for targeted therapies require genetic testing, proving you have the mutation being targeted. Age alone is rarely disqualifying. Many trials accept patients over 70 or even 80 if they're otherwise healthy. Prior cancer history sometimes disqualifies patients, but not always. It depends on the specific trial. Geographic location matters for practical reasons, but some trials offer remote monitoring or cover travel costs. If you've been told you don't qualify for one trial, don't give up. Ensure comprehensive molecular testing is done or scheduled. You need both germline genetic testing and somatic tumor profiling. Create a free account on clinicaltrials.gov and begin searching. Request your complete medical records. Identify the nearest National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer center if you're not already being treated at one. These centers conduct the majority of pancreatic cancer trials. Ask directly. Based on my specific tumor characteristics and treatment history, what clinical trials might be appropriate for me? Request, can you refer me to your institution's clinical trials office? Inquire about trial networks. Is our institution part of any cooperative groups? Ask about molecular tumor boards. Does your center have a precision medicine board that could review my genetic testing? Immediately at diagnosis before starting any treatment. Some of the most promising trials are for treatment-naive patients. When your disease progresses on current treatment. If you have a known actionable genetic mutation. If you're at a community hospital with limited options, consider seeking consultation at an academic center, even if you continue most care locally. Warning signs to seek trials urgently. If you're told we're running out of options, your tumor has rare or unusual genetic features, or you've exhausted standard therapies but maintain good functional status. These scenarios often mean trials are your best bet for meaningful treatment. Clinical trials aren't last resorts. They're often your best opportunity for cutting-edge treatment, especially if your tumor has targetable genetic mutations. Approximately 25% of pancreatic cancers have actionable genetic mutations. Your next step is ensuring molecular testing is complete and beginning your search on clinicaltrials.gov this week. This information is for education. Always discuss your individual situation with your healthcare provider. I've outlined several reputable resources here which you may find valuable for further information on this topic. clinicaltrials.gov, the official U.S. database, Pancreatic Cancer Action Network at pancan.org, for clinical trial matching and patient support. National Cancer Institute at cancer.gov, for NC. Designated Cancer Center Locator, American Society of Clinical Oncology at cancer.net for patient-friendly education, and your cancer center's clinical trials office for direct access. All links are available in the description below. Thank you for watching.